Excellence is a function of precise, consistent job execution. Join me for this in-depth look at performance excellence, efficiency, safety, and deep professional pride. Take a deep breath, the power of safety excellence. Truly great performances are something we all enjoy watching. This short video is going to explain one behavioral technique that science shows leads to awesome results. I'm Paul Krismer, a positive psychology expert, and I've had the pleasure of working with so many people who've learned to be happier and more successful. I love to teach the secret to success used by some of the world's greatest performers. Have you ever wondered what hockey great Mark Messier and Cy Young winner Barry Zito have in common? In fact, the whole Seattle Seahawks team won the Super Bowl with this daily practice. They also share their secret with Academy Award winners like Tom Hanks and Clint Eastwood. In fact, their secret's really not so secret. In any endeavor where excellence is demanded, people are learning the same techniques I'm going to teach you. US Marines, elite Navy SEALs, nearly every Olympic athlete. Heads of Fortune 500 companies like Ford and Twitter, even celebrities like Paul McCartney and Mick Jagger. What do all these superstars have in common? They're trained in visualization and mindfulness techniques. What the heck is a visualization or mindfulness technique? Perhaps you've seen NHL stars like Mike Camilleri on the bench well before the game starts. In his practice time, he's simply seeing in his mind's eye what he wants to have happen on the ice. It's a visualization. Now, these millionaire athletes also harness their focus so that when they're playing hockey, their mind does not wander. They only pay attention to what is actually happening in the moment. To be mindful is simply to be fully focused on what is actually happening right now. It means that no part of the player's thinking is judging whether he's doing well or poorly. No part of his thinking is considering a past moment when he missed a shot, and no part of his thinking is considering how much he wishes the shot he's about to take goes in the net. Nothing about the past or future is on his mind. Instead, all of his attention is 100% given to what's actually happening right now. Some people call this being in the now. I like to think of it as being in the zone. When you're fully dialed in, your performance potential is maximized. Score! And holy cow, does this kind of stuff ever make a difference? Psychologists have been studying these techniques for years. They can tell you that when people are in the zone, they get much better performance results. This is regardless of what the goals are. If you want to do some home maintenance, make a great golf shot, or fall a tree exactly where you want it to land, you can do it more often with excellent results when you practice a little mindfulness. In an industrial context, mindfulness is purposeful, total attention to the current task. Science shows there are a crazy number of bona fide benefits, including better task focus, improved emotional regulation, lower blood pressure, better pain management, and faster mental processing. And I know this is stretching the point of the video a bit, but mindfulness actually makes us better lovers. I'm not kidding. So why isn't everyone learning mindfulness? Well, actually, more and more people are learning it. It's caught a wave of popularity, and because it's so effective, it will not be a passing fad. Learning to be mindful isn't hard. With just a little training and practice, anyone can use this powerful performance enhancer. It's more and more commonly showing up in elementary school classrooms. I've even taught kids who play sports some of these techniques. In fact, I've taught people in virtually every walk of life how to be mindful. I've trained a bunch of high-rolling lawyers in Toronto, and I've even had the unique experience of teaching inmates in a prison. This video isn't about the training, more it's about a simple introduction to the concept. I'm happy to show a few examples of how this might work in industrial settings like yours. We all know how important it is to check over the upkeep and condition of major machinery before we operate it. This is a basic safety practice. When we know the equipment is in good working order, only then do we put it to work. Well, mindfulness is a bit like this. It's a way to check in with ourselves and make sure our attitudes and our thinking are ready for the important work we are about to do. Now, it may sound a bit odd, but a lot of industrial workers are not so different from professional athletes. I spent the better part of my adult life working with orthopedic injuries and consulting on safety and wellness concerns in all kinds of industrial settings. It's an underappreciated fact that fallers, for example, are every bit as much an athlete as many professional sports performers. Just think about it. How many humans scramble over rough, mountainous terrain all day, every day? Both physically and mentally, their workplace demands are awesome. These guys are tough, strong, and frankly, vulnerable to injury, just like pro athletes. When they get banged up, their best medicine ought to be just the same as it is for high-level athletes. However, and here's the real kicker, it's way better if they don't get hurt in the first place. So what does a faller do to learn about mindfulness and then use it in a practical work setting? Well, he'd need a bit of formal training, the kind of thing that would be taught in a few crew talks. The team would watch a short video, and then there'd be some discussion and an exercise. The crew supervisor would need a bit more training to have the confidence needed to pass these techniques on to his team. After being trained, imagine a worker walking towards the next tree he's going to bring down. He may be thinking about all kinds of things, the kind of stuff we all think about. How's the work going? Is he on schedule? Maybe what his weekend plans are, or maybe even he's replaying an argument with his wife from the night before. Once he arrives at the tree he's going to fall, he would then recall his mindfulness training. Just after setting down his gas can, he would pause and take one deep breath, a full, lengthy in-breath that fills up his lungs right to his diaphragm. And then he'd pause for a moment, and he'd breathe out even longer than it took to breathe in. And I know this kind of sounds silly and ridiculous, like who has time for this kind of thing? But the science is amazing. Research shows that when our out-breath is longer than our in-breath, our minds are subconsciously telling us to relax, to renew focus. If the faller found that his breath was short and hurried, he would see this as a cue to take another deep breath, slowly in and even slower out. This simple momentary act of consciously breathing, it grounds him. And now he's ready to undertake the important and potentially hazardous job he's about to do. By his actions, he knows he needs to sharpen his focus on the task at hand. He does his safety assessment. What's in the canopy? What's the condition of the tree? What's its lean? What are the ground conditions? Where's his escape path? This is all normal. It's his usual routine. But now he'd go back to his learned visualization technique and see in detail exactly where he wants the tree to hit the ground. He will imagine in his mind's eye the tree falling perfectly where he wants to put it down. Now this stuff is amazing in terms of how effective it can be. Published studies have shown you can teach basketball players to improve their free throws by 23% by just routinely visualizing successful shots and not actually touching a real ball. Our faller is now ready to begin his work. He makes his undercut with a deep awareness of his intended direction of fall. He's continuously assessing the hazards. And true to his mindfulness training, he now switches to doing the back cut. And as he does so, he specifically sees his hands positioned on the saw. He notes his left hand and his right hand. And this simple technique completely stops any mind wandering. He's fully on task and proceeds to mindfully take down the tree, assessing for hazards continuously, wedging as necessary, leaving appropriate holding wood, and of course, putting the tree down just where he'd aimed it. He's a pro. From his safe spot at least 10 feet away or behind cover, he assesses his work and continues to look for hazards. A good job from a true craftsman. Rinse and repeat, off he goes to the next tree. Now these simple techniques may not sound like much, but they work. Safer, better performance, and actually more efficiency in spite of the momentary few seconds he used to ensure he was focused and clear-headed. Because the benefits are so good, it seems that mindfulness is everywhere these days. And of course, mindfulness has been around in office settings for many, many years. But now there's great research and practical application in settings like the oil and gas industry, demolition crews, and manufacturing. Workers in any setting can benefit from this kind of training. And one of the big bonuses is they get the benefit of mindfulness wherever they apply it in their lives, at work, at play, and even at home. Let's take another look at an example, this time from a sawmill setting. Now, just like the faller, workers in a sawmill must stay alert and be on task. This can be challenging when oftentimes the work just rolls along in a predictable, routine pattern. However, these situations can be particularly hazardous. This is true in large part because our minds tend to wander to all kinds of things when they're not substantial thinking demands from the work itself. We kind of go on autopilot. And you know that's true of almost all of us. We get good at our work after much practice, and then our minds can get bored, we tune out, and this can be particularly true for young workers who don't have fully formed adult functions in their brains until about 25 years old. Now, this has nothing to do with motivation or being a millennial. It's objectively a function of neurophysiology, that is, the physical structure of their brain is still developing. And the statistics demonstrate that these workers are particularly at risk. Fortunately, young workers have two things going for them. Like everyone else, they can learn the mindfulness techniques that we're talking about. And secondly, these workers grew up in an era when psychological techniques were commonly discussed in classrooms and frankly in most kids' homes. Young workers are open to learning mindfulness. Now let's see how this works for the sawmill operator. When an upset like this happens, quick action is necessary, but so too is sharp focus. The hazards associated with getting into this equipment are very real. The worker's first action is to stop the machine and then call for supervisory help. The supervisor and the worker discuss the risk and create a safe work plan. And at this mill, the safe work procedure includes mindfully slowing down. The worker locks out power to the machine, and then he tests that the equipment is de-energized. He then visualizes exactly what needs to happen as the log is moved back into proper position. He knows where he will stand to minimize exposure to the log's kinetic energy. He sees how the tongs will be applied, and he knows how he will remove himself from the area before the log is repositioned. He sees all this before he gets started. And before entering the bite, he takes one deep, mindful breath. Focused and composed, he engages calmly in this hazardous work process. This job can be pretty routine, but chaos can break out at any time. This worker keeps the productivity of the mill up by dealing with crises when they arise. This worker did everything right. He was sharp, on task, and most importantly, he was safe. We know from much analysis that momentary inattention is a common reason why near misses, injuries, and sadly fatalities occur. How often have you heard someone say, "I lost focus for a second," or "I had a lot on my mind," or "I wasn't really paying attention"? These comments are too often the truth that comes out during an accident investigation. This situation can and must be improved. Mindfulness is simply paying attention to what's actually happening in the moment and staying focused on achieving specific, clear goals. Companies that invest in these kinds of initiatives get way more than just the goal of safer workers. Mindfulness generally increases mental well-being for employees. When employee wellness grows, a number of benefits are known to accompany the change. People volunteer their contribution at work more, and they look to make improvements beyond their narrowly defined job roles. Environmental compliance goes up, the quality of social interaction improves, and there tends to be less employee turnover. And of course, these wellness results impact the bottom line: higher productivity, higher profits, and a healthier, safer workforce. Wood harvesting and sawmill operations can greatly benefit by using the science of mindfulness in their business. If you've learned something of interest in this video, like it below and share it on your social media. I'm proud to be here representing many health and safety professionals from the forestry industry. We want you to have the techniques we've been discussing here in your own safety inventory. Click the link to get your mindfulness safety kit. If you're on a desktop computer, you'll see the link right here, and it's again repeated in the summary text below. Now, thanks for watching, and have a mindful, enjoyable, and safe day.